What is up, my good people of the internet? Happy to have you here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Can't thank you enough for being a part of the show and joining me here on our weekly broadcasts all around the country and the world. So big time thanks to everybody who's tuning in, and wherever you are, tuning in on youtube.com, facebook.com, both / Wake Up Call DT, as well as on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. So live internet streaming video, live internet streaming radio as well. However you're connecting with us, thank you so much for being a part of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. Can't thank you enough for connecting here with the broadcast. So many thanks to each and every single one of you, and hope you're having truly a wonderful week. If you're not, we're going to make it better. If you are, well, we're going to make it better. That's how I look at it. So I have an awesome broadcast set up today, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to share these with you inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. We have the Annoying Moment of the Week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street in DeWitt, New York. It is what happy tastes like, and it is the exclusive home of the DT Dolphin, which is my Sunday dedicated to the Lemoyne College Dolphins. So make sure you go out and get that today at 4322 East Genesee Street in Syracuse, New York. It's awesome. It's mint chocolate chip ice cream, green for the Dolphins, obviously, and it is hot fudge, whipped cream, a cherry, green and gold sprinkles for the Dolphins as well. And you will also have a chocolate dolphin jumping out of your ice cream, out of your whipped cream, I should say. So make sure you go out there to Carvel DeWitt today and get yourself the DT Dolphin. It is really something special, and I'm so happy we got to do it for the community and have some fun. So make sure you go out there and get the DT Dolphin today, on site, on location at Carvel DeWitt. So the Annoying Moment of the Week coming up first. Right after the Annoying Moment of the Week, we're going to jump into Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-lib, and Deliver. That acronym coming to you proudly presented by Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. And today's topic is going to be very simply the statement, who are you? And, it sounds like a simple statement, but at the same time, may not be a simple answer. So who are you? We're going to discuss that today. And then we'll get into the top dog of the week, where I have the opportunity of honoring someone or an organization. So we'll be doing the top dog of the week coming up here around 10 a.m. Eastern Time, proudly presented by K9 Kamp Dog Daycare and K9 Kampground Dog Boarding. And finally, on the broadcast today, we will jump into my conversation with American Athletic Conference Commissioner Mike Aresco, who will be talking with me all about Army West Point joining in football only, just like Navy is with the American Athletic Conference. We'll also dispel a rumor that's been going around about the conference that Mike Aresco wanted to make clear, and we'll talk about scheduling for football and how things work out. Can you plug in Army to what SMU was going to be doing, or how do you work all of this out? So they're back to 14 members as of 2024, so they will stay at 14 because they're at 14 right now with the 6 incoming schools that they had come here in July 1st, 2023. So they're already at 14 football members. When SMU leaves, Army will come in, so they will never have a drop of 14 members. They'll go from 14 to 14. So that's a good thing, a seamless transition of staying with 14 member schools. When the day that SMU leaves is the day that Army comes in. So good stuff coming up for the American Athletic Conference, and I can't wait to share my conversation with Mike Aresco with you around 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time. So with all that being said, it's time to jump into, you guessed it, the Annoying Moment of the Week.
Dan Tortora proudly brings you...
Is that for real? Are you kidding me?
The Annoying Moment of the Week.
I really, honestly, I don't know how to respond to this.
Presented by Carvel DeWitt, 4322 East Genesee Street. It's what happy tastes like.
Do you have to be that crazy? I guess so.
The Annoying Moment of the Week, proudly presented by the fantastic team at Carvel DeWitt. My Annoying Moment of the Week for this week It's got to be. I mean, there's a few different things. One of them is technology, right? So you do different things. Like I have different things here in the studio, and you try to get some functionality and make sure that you're comfortable in the studio and how you're sitting and where the mic is and all this stuff. And sometimes technical things just don't work the way that they're supposed to. Sometimes you can have a setting on your computer. And this could be for anybody, not a broadcaster, but for anybody. You put a setting on your computer. It's been your setting for like 20 years. It's been your setting for 6 months. It's been your setting for 3 years. And then all of a sudden, the setting keeps changing, and you have to go in there and you have to. I just had to do it this morning. I had to do it just now. So there's like certain things where you're like, okay, I set it here. I put this here. Why is this not working? And you try to figure it out, but you're like, I don't get it. Like, I'm not doing anything different. I'm not changing anything. This is set in the same place. So I'd probably have to say technology is my first annoying moment of the week. The second one is the fact that we can watch Age of Ultron and not think that artificial intelligence can get there. I mean, that's got to be my second annoying moment of the week, is knowing that we have put ourselves in situations where they're like, oh, well, that's the movie AI. No, that's artificial intelligence. If you create something that is not human to be able to think on its own and make decisions on its own, you are putting yourself in a position where you're playing God. And playing God has never worked out for humanity. So, it turns out God really doesn't like when people try to impersonate him. And I don't understand what we're doing. I mean, I know we're a lazy society, and I know we're a society where we don't want to have to think for ourselves. We want somebody to think for us and go get our food and do all this. And I'm not talking everybody, because there's people in this society that still believe that you should like work for a living and you should earn what you have. There's people that actually believe that you should give to society and not just have society give to you. But that's exactly what artificial intelligence is. And if it's listening to me right now, that's what's creepy about this, is that I'm sitting here going, is it hearing me right now? Is it like not allowing this video to be on your feed right now because I'm talking about it? And so is it trying to like hide me? Am I going to get a message saying like there's an error with your video or something like that? But that's the society that we're trending toward, is a society where, if we say something bad about artificial intelligence, does it pick it up? Does it hear it? Does it block something? Does it keep somebody from getting a message out there because you're talking about it? And why would we create something that would be able to do that, able to make decisions, able to manipulate people, able to manipulate the internet? I don't know why we would want that to happen, but I do know, again, that this is a society that's become very lazy. It's become very lax. It's become very, do it for me, figure it out for me, somebody, help me do this because I don't feel like doing it. That's the society we live in today, right? I don't want to have to write my paper. I want something to write my paper for me. I don't want to have to look this up. I want somebody to look it up for me. I don't want to have to get my groceries. I want somebody to get my groceries for me. That's the society we live in now. Get my groceries, fetch my food, walk my dog. Why would you buy a dog and then hire somebody to walk the dog? Like, that doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? It's like, I understand people need help and there's single parents and this and that, but for me, I had that conversation with somebody before. They're like, I'm going to buy a dog. I'm like, you don't even have time to date. You don't even have, and we were dating at the time. I was like, you don't even have time to spend with me. And you're going to get a dog that's relying on you? I don't have to rely on you. I can feed myself. I can walk myself. But this dog is going to rely on you. And they're like, well, I'll just hire a dog walker. So you're going to buy a dog that you can't take care of. For what? Well, because when I come home, the dog will pay me attention. When I come home, the dog will love me. So you're going to punish this dog just so you can selfishly have that unconditional love when you come home. What's the dog get? Well, the dog's going to get all the love I got from from 7 to 9 p.m. And it's like, no, and that's ridiculous. But we live in this world, and this is why it's the annoying moment of the week. We're living in, I shouldn't even say in a world, because I don't know what's going on in the other parts of the world, but we live in America, and in America, we, for some odd reason, are trying to beat ourselves. We're trying to lose so hard, right? We can't get race under control. We can't get prejudice, like any prejudice. And when I say get race under control, we can't find a way to just like stop hating each other. We can't find a way to go, you look different than me, and that's okay. Why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? Nobody's life is more important than anybody else's life. Nobody is. If there was a gunman and there was an African-American person and a Hispanic person and an Asian person and a Caucasian person, and they said, Dan, choose which one of these 4 people I shoot, I would stand in front of all 4 of those people and try to prevent the bullet from hitting any of them. There's nobody's life that's less important to me than somebody else's life. And that's reality. Everybody's life matters. Everybody's life is important. God didn't create us to go, well, this race is more important than this race. Well, this gender is more important than this gender. Well, this nationality is more important than this nationality. That's not how it is. And maybe that's how people think, but it's not true. But why can't we figure it out? Why can't we get it together? I mean, I'm proud to be Hispanic. I'm proud to be Italian. I'm proud to be born in America. I'm proud to be American. And if I was born in Germany, I would have been proud to be German. And if I was born in Sicily, I would have been proud to not only still be Italian, but be Sicilian. I mean, I don't understand why we can't be proud of who we are, but then respectful of other people and other cultures. It's such a simple thing in life to just be nice. And if you open yourself up to other cultures, you learn things. I've learned so much by branching out. I've met people from Brazil. I've met people from Mexico. I've met people from all different parts of the United States. I've met people from Canada. I've met people in Puerto Rico. I mean, I have had the opportunity to interact. I've talked with people from Spain. Like, I want to learn. I want to learn and I want to grow. And kind of going back to the artificial intelligence thing, you know, if you're letting something write your paper and you're letting something making decisions for you, you're not growing. You're not learning. You're not interacting. Nothing will ever substitute the interaction of a person to a person. And, you know, if you're deaf through sign language, if you're blind, then you could still obviously hear and have the conversation and whatnot. There's so many ways of interacting human to human. And, I mean, for goodness sake, Stephen Hawking for how many years interacted and was able to speak despite his ailments. And there are people that fight to speak, fight to interact, fight to get their message across. And then there's other people that are like, nah, just like have somebody do it for me. And I mean, I just feel like, you know, sometimes you're victims of your own creation and your own success. And I feel like, you know, America's built this, you know, built up this ego that we are so successful and we're so amazing, we're so awesome. And now we're creating things to try and make life even easier for us, but it's not making life easier. I mean, artificial intelligence, it's kind of a cop-out. And, you know, well, let's make something that can help us do this. And people say, well, Dan, it's going to help in medicine. It's going to help in, you know, it's going to help us in medicine. And that's a beautiful thing. Of course it's a beautiful thing to help in medicine. But what are the other things it's going to do? You know, what if artificial intelligence simply said to itself, just like in Age of Ultron, because apparently we don't watch Terminator or any of these movies about building robots and building artificial intelligence and what they, did you watch the movie Megan recently? Horrifying. But, you know, I mean, what's stopping artificial intelligence from just logically looking at the world going, the planet is dying, people have a direct effect on the planet dying. If we eradicate people, we'll protect the planet, so let's eradicate people. I mean, it's a logical statement that it could make, and then it doesn't care about death because it's not human. So, you know, I just, Or if it decides, hey, I'm smarter than human beings, we don't need human beings because I'm the intelligent race. I need to build more of me. Like, why would we do that? Why would we do and to be afraid, right? You got to be afraid of everything now. Somebody's life matters more than somebody else's life. And if you say everybody's life matters equally, then you're a mean person. If you say that you don't understand a way that somebody lives your life, then you're inconsiderate. Why can't we live in a society where we maybe don't all agree, but we can respect each other? I may not agree with the way that my neighbor lives their life, but I'm not over there shooting my neighbor or yelling at my neighbor or cussing my neighbor or threatening my neighbor. They live their life differently than I live my life, and as long as they're not hurting anybody and I'm not hurting anybody, we're just different. It's okay to be different. There's nothing wrong with being different. But I guess I'm just at a loss that, my dad and I were traveling, and this all kind of comes from this. We were traveling over the last couple of days, and we flew into an airport, and this guy sees me from far away, and far enough away, and he just walks right at me. Like, you're going to move. I'm more important than you are. You're going to get out of my space. And I remember looking at this person going like, what the heck is wrong with you? There's wide open space, and you've chosen to just walk at a human being to try and duel. I mean, what are we doing here? This just inconsiderate. And then there's other people that are so considerate and so amazing. And there's this juxtaposition of like my dad and I traveling to Arizona and people being in, there was a ton of us coming out of Chase Field after the Diamondbacks played the Rangers, and there's so many people. Nobody's pushing, nobody's like kicking, nobody's being rude and disrespectful and swearing at each other. We were just all walking together, and there was a ton of us in a tight area. And then you land in a New York City airport, and this guy's got a mile of where he could go, and he's coming right at me. And you just think to yourself, like, what is going on? Like, why? Why are some people that are in this tight, uncomfortable situation all walking out of a stadium together? Why are they respectful? And then this guy has a runway to walk wherever he wants to walk, and he's got to come right at me. So, it's this. I'm kind of just the annoying moment of the week is kind of like it's humanity. Why are we building things to make decisions for us, and then why are we not making good decisions for ourselves? Is really what I'm saying. We could be so much better. Why are we not being better? Why are we not being kinder? And why are we creating technology that will eventually outseat us? Why is humanity constantly trying to lose? That's the question I ask myself. And people might not see it that way at the top, but it is. It's like we're trying to fail. We're trying to lose. We're trying to create our own problems. And why? Why would a human being want to create problems that don't exist? Why would anybody want to create problems that don't exist? That's the question. What's the answer? We got to find it out together. Working together. Interacting together. Nothing can take last night I had dinner with two wonderful people. And nothing's ever going to be better than that. Better than sitting and breaking bread and just talking with these people. Not having a computer talk for them. Not having, and I'm not talking about somebody that has ALS and they have to speak through that computer or what Stephen Hawking did. I'm not saying that. I'm saying not having somebody sit there and, have a computer speak for them. Have artificial intelligence tell you how they feel because they don't want to. They're on their phone. They're doing something else. Interacting and having just like a genuine dinner, a genuine meal with people and getting to know them and what matters to them and what they care about and hearing their story and learning something about them and having them trust you and talk with you and share information, and you share with them and you trust them and you share information with them and you go back and forth, and they get to know the type of person you are and you get to know the type of person they are, and you leave better off. Nothing will ever substitute that. Why are we trying to lose? I'm not. I hope you aren't. And smarter heads have to prevail. We'll take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back on Wake Up Call, going off of this, we're going to have a conversation in Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-lib, and Deliver that's all about the topic today, who are you? Right after this.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, located at 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave, is the home for all sports card fans in our community and coming into our community visiting as well. There is no place like GG Cards and Breaks, and that is why I love going in there and seeing Anthony, Josh, Alex, Joel, and the entire team at GG Cards and Breaks Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sundays from 10 to 5. Because they love the hobby. They're into it. They enjoy it. It matters to them. It means something to them. When you have people that have a store and they're just selling things, right? And that's all it's about. Like, let's sell this stuff. Let's get it out of here. Now, there are people that obviously want to sell the product that they have, but they care about the product. They open the product. They get involved in it. They're big kids, right? They're open up those boxes. They're seeing what they get. They're finding those good cards. They're grading them. They're putting them in the case and putting them out there for sale for you. So head off to GG Cards and Breaks today to meet people that are so passionate about their job and passionate about the hobby that it can't help but take that passion that you have and light it on fire. So make sure you go out to GG Cards and Breaks today and have some fun. Singles, packs, boxes, as well as individual team boxes where you can sift through NBA, NFL, and Major League Baseball teams and find your favorite team and hopefully your favorite players and take some of those cards home as well. And that's another attention to detail thing, is what card shop goes through their card collection and finds every NBA, every NFL, and every MLB team, makes an individual box of those cards and puts them out there for an opportunity for you to take them home. And they're not just base cards. Some of them are autograph cards, they're patch cards, rookie cards. So make sure that you go through those boxes today and enjoy everything that GG Cards and Breaks has to offer. A lot of great stuff coming up with GG Cards and Breaks. Same hobby, new memories. If you're a card collector, great place to continue making those memories. And if you've never been a card collector, it's a great place to start. Pokemon and Disney Lorcana also there as well while supplies last. So make sure you get out to GG Cards and Breaks with soccer, baseball, football, basketball, hockey, AEW, and more. It is the place for your sports card hobby and just to be around great people in our community on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. With that being said, inside of Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com's What's Poppin'? So make sure you get over, by the way, make sure you get over to Ma and Pa's. It is the perfect place to go. And if you're looking for a gift this holiday season, it is a great place to put some awesome things together, make a nice holiday basket for those that you love for Christmas, for Hanukkah, for Kwanzaa, and so on and so forth. It is a perfect place for you to go and celebrate the holidays and get some really unique gifts that taste oh so incredible. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Head over there today. Make sure you let them know the Wake Up Call sent you. It is right by the highway, the thruway, few minutes from downtown Syracuse, few minutes from the mall, right off of 7th North Street, and very easy to get to. So head off to Ma and Pa's today for their incredible flavors, sweet and savory. You will not miss a taste bud beat if you go over to Ma and Pa's. Trust me on that. Cotton candy, lemonade, as well as chocolate-dipped Oreos, chocolate-dipped pretzels, popcorn, kettle corn, their premium corn, like my favorite Elvis, the banana popcorn, drizzled with Reese's peanut butter. It's beyond. So make sure you get yourself over to Ma and Pa's today, the great place to find the snacks you love and to get gifts for those that you love so very much as well at Ma and Pa's. So inside of Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com's What's Poppin', jumping into Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver. Make sure you get your way over to Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay today and right now as they bring you our Lead segment. Today's topic inside of Lead is, who are you? Do you know? Can you answer that question? If somebody walked up to you today, total stranger, and said, who are you? Tell me who you are. I want to know. What would you say? Would you say, first and foremost, your name? You know, I'm Daniel Tortora. I am a broadcaster. I'm a proud dog dad. I believe in God. What would you say if somebody came up to you today and said, who are you? How would you answer the question? What are the things that would come out of your mouth first? What about you would you want people to know right off the bat? Like I said, would it be your beliefs? Would it be your job? Would it be your kids? What would be the thing that you would want somebody to know right when they meet you? Who are you? If you only had a couple minutes to tell somebody who you are, what would you say? That's something that I don't think a lot of us think about, right? I don't think a lot of us take the time to say, who would we describe ourselves as if somebody asked us who we are? But I'm asking you that now. Who are you? Because if you don't know who you are, then nobody else does. And if you don't know who you are, well, then you become impressionable, right? You can kind of become a chameleon and change depending on who you're around. You know, people that talk a certain way when they're with you and then they're with someone else and they sound completely different. They speak like in a different slang and they just have a different way they go about it. Like I have I can't even say that we're not friends anymore, but I had a friend that's how they were. When they were talking with me, you know, they're like, oh, Dan, da-da-da. And then they would talk with someone else. They'd be like, yo, man, come on, man. What you doing, man? And trying to act like something that they would have seen in a movie, but it was also the way that that person spoke. So they wanted to mimic that person. And when they were with me, it was more just kind of like, hey, how are you? What's going on? And then they would just change. And if you don't know who you are, then you do become a mimic. And you become a chameleon. You start to kind of absorb other things. And if you don't, and the whole point that what I'm getting to is we live in America right now that's having an identity crisis, right? A lot of people don't know who they are. They are asking everybody else who they are. They're asking social media who they are. They're asking social media, tell me I'm pretty. Tell me I'm smart. Tell me I'm funny. Tell me you like this. Tell me, click the like button. Click the subscribe button. Love me. Tell me that I'm good. Tell me that I'm sexy. Tell me that I'm awesome. Tell me I'm a good leader. Tell me I'm going to be successful. Tell me. Please, somebody tell me. Anybody tell me. Listen to what I just said. It sounds like anxiety. Tell me. Somebody's got to tell me. Somebody has to validate me. That's the society we live in now. Somebody has to tell me that what I'm doing is okay, even if it's not. They have to tell me it's okay. If another person tells me it's okay, then it's not just me, and then it's okay. We have an identity crisis going on in America right now. We don't know what it means to be who we are. Not all of us, but some of us. Some people know exactly who they are. But this identity crisis, it comes from the devil. It doesn't come from God. God is not a God of chaos. God is a God of love, a God of peace. And so when we see something chaotic in our lives, that is not coming from God. A loss of identity is not coming from God. Anxiety is not coming from God. We might blame God. People tend to do that all the time. It's funny how people say they don't believe in God, but then when something goes wrong, they blame God and they go, "See, this is why I don't believe. Because God doesn't like me, or if God existed, God wouldn't have done this to me." And And I can't answer every question. I'm not God. There's questions I have for God. Why did my grandfathers die when I was 6 years old? Why did that have to happen? Right? But I'm not mad at God. I don't understand it. It took time, but I'm not mad at God. I'm not mad. And I feel like not knowing who you are, it makes you easily controlled, right? It makes you easily manipulated. And that's something that I don't like seeing, but it happens. And the thing that's crazy about it is there's people being manipulated right now that have no idea that it's happening to them. Because they want so badly to be understood and to be loved and to be heard that if somebody loves them, if somebody shows them 5 minutes of attention, if somebody tells them they're pretty, sends them a follow, sends them a like, they will just jump right into that and lose themselves so easily. Just because somebody said something nice. We're having an identity crisis. And we need to talk about it. We have to talk about our identities. Who are you? Do you know who you are? Do you know what you love? Do you know what you like? Do you know what you don't like? Are you willing to tell people that? Are you a people pleaser? There's people that are people pleasers. Are you a people pleaser? I had somebody tell me before, well, Dan, you're in entertainment. You got to please everybody. Do you pick your topics and your guests based on what people want to hear or what? Because why would you do it based on anything else? No, I don't. I don't say, hey, coach from this school, nobody's really asking about you or covering you, so I'm not going to do a show with you. I'm going to do a show with the person that everybody's talking to, that everybody... No. Because I believe everybody has a story to tell. And how dare me tell somebody, you're not as important as this other person. You don't matter as much as this other person. That's not fair. It's not kind, and I wouldn't want somebody to treat me that way. It's... Yeah, I mean, and what I'm talking about right now, if you watch the show on Amazon Prime, The Boys, and the spin-off show Gen V, it's like these people have superpowers, right? And some of them are like, oh, I just want to be a superhero, right? And then they learn that this world of being a superhero is not all it's cracked up to be, in the sense of like people kind of lose themselves, and it's not all about being a superhero. It's about, you know, they're getting an interview and they're like, oh, like, what do I say? And they're handed a script. So it's not even an interview. Like, you're sitting there smiling, but you're saying somebody else's words. It's not you. You know, they ask you to lie. They ask you to cheat. It's all about the image. It's all about, this is how we're going to spin the story. We're not going to tell the truth. We're going to tell our version of what we want people to believe is the truth. And you lose yourself in that. You know, you lose yourself in that. And it just got me thinking, I guess, subconsciously about what is happening in our actual society, of people just not knowing their own identity, not knowing who they are, being easily manipulated by I mean, look at it. When something's trending on TikTok, watch people dress that way, act that way, do that thing, go to that place, because they want you to like them, instead of just being who they are. I'm wearing a Moon Knight shirt today. Why am I wearing a Moon Knight shirt today? Because I felt like it. Because I like Moon Knight. If Moon Knight wasn't trending, I don't care. If Moon Knight was the least liked Marvel character, I don't care. If Moon Knight's comic book was the worst seller on the comic circuit, I don't care. I like Moon Knight. If you don't, I don't care. But see, that's me. I've always had my own style. I've always just by my own drum. I didn't, want to look like everybody else and sound like everybody else. But in today's society, especially with social media, it's something that people just kind of run to, right? I'm going to pretend like I'm a fan of this team because this team is successful, and I want to be a part of something, right? People want to be a part of something because it makes them feel like they have value. But you have to, and there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, you know what? I want to go to this concert and see what they're all about, but do it for you. There was something in the TV show Gen V that really made me think about today's culture, and I think that the show, as gruesome as it is at times, I think that the show is a true kind of honest approach of saying, like, these are the things that are wrong with American culture, and they want you to see them, but they do it in like their own way within the show, that they're asking questions about who we are and why does America look like this right now. And there was a girl who went to the site where they were honoring somebody who had passed away, and so there's candles and pictures, and she put her camera up and she filmed herself crying, and then as soon as she ended the video, she stopped crying, and then she put it on social media. And she was just at that site to try and get followers by acting like she was sad about somebody that passed away that was a high-profile person. And I thought to myself, that's in our society right now. There are people that will pretend on social media just to get likes, just to get followers, just to have somebody validate them. And there's been this dedication to social media and not to God, and making social media your God, lowercase g. And people say, well, Dan, how do we fix America? How do we get in the right direction? Well, you put God back in. God is not a fake thing that was made up to make you feel good. I had somebody say that to me before, and it really hurt me. I can't even say, I don't even want to say it really hurt me. It made me think, like, this person's logic, like, where does this come from that they feel this way? And that there was so much hate for God in their heart. But this person said to me, they said, You believe in God like a lot of people that can't deal with life. God is your crutch. That's what this woman said to me. She said, God is your crutch. God doesn't exist, but you pretend that God exists because if you didn't believe that God exists, you wouldn't have been able to handle your life. So you need this fake thing that you call God in order for you to like not jump off a bridge, essentially, to not give up. And I thought to myself, you think that I made up God so that I can sleep at night. And this woman, even if she did know this information, I've had multiple near-death experiences. I almost got hit by a bus as a kid. I flew off a bike when I was riding one day by my house, and I could have hit a lot of things, and I fell in amongst all of them, and I had maybe a scratch or two on my body. Nothing broken. I mean, the way that I started my business, you know, I didn't have a rich benefactor. I didn't have a radio signal that somebody gifted to me. I wasn't a trust fund baby. I didn't know all the information and all the technology. I didn't have all the answers. So to think that my life randomly got saved, to think that I randomly built my business so successfully, piece on piece, into this workable commodity just by total chance. It sounds ridiculous. But when she spoke to me that day, she was speaking from a place of wanting to hurt someone that believes in God, because they don't. You know, and to be in a society where people are so passionate that nobody can tell them what to do, but that those same passionate people tell everybody else what to do. And hypocrisy is one of the greatest sins in today's culture, and we don't call it a sin. We don't talk about hypocrisy as much as we should. That the people that are begging you to let them live their life are trying to prevent you from living yours. The people that tell me I want to do this, that, and the other thing, but you can't believe in God. Well, then you're telling me I can't tell you what to do, but you're telling me what to do. The hypocrisy of today's culture, that we will go up to someone and say, you're not allowed to believe that, you're not allowed to do that, you're not allowed to think that. You know, we support all religions except Catholicism. How does that come about? If you support all religions, there's no comma except. There's no I support all religions except Judaism. I accept all religions except Catholicism. I accept all religions except, you know, the Islamic religion. I mean, you can't say I accept all except. That doesn't make sense. There's an accept with ACC and there's an accept with EXC. And you can't put them both together and think that that's logical. But people do that all the time. I believe what I believe in, Dan, but you shouldn't believe in what you believe in. I'm going to fight you on what you believe in, but don't you dare question what I believe in. Why do we live in a society where we are accepting that? Where we are saying that's okay. That's not okay. You cannot have one child say, I'm going to be this, and then tell another child they can't be that. And then have that child turn around and say, well, if I can't be this, you can't be that. And then that person loses their mind and cries and they're triggered and they're bothered by everything. And we really need to stop being bothered by everything. Because if you're bothered by everything, you're bothered by nothing. You know, that's how I look at this stuff. If you're bothered by everything, you're bothered by nothing. Because the word triggered needs to be deleted from the American culture. It needs to be deleted from humanity. It needs to be deleted from history. The word triggered needs to go away because people are triggered by everything now. They're triggered by bananas. They're triggered by rabbits. They're triggered by carpets. They're triggered by walls. They're triggered by ceilings. They're triggered by baseball bats. They're triggered by birds. They're triggered by clouds. Stop. We live in a society now that is like so mean, yet so emotional. And how can it be both? How can we be both? How can you be a person that screams and yells and threatens and chastises and condemns other people for living their lives the way that they do, but then you cry hysterically when anybody questions the way that you live your life? You cannot be the victim and the perpetrator. You can't be holding the gun and be the person who got shot. And it's just crazy to me that society has this identity crisis where nobody can talk to you about who you are, but you can tell everybody else who you want them to be. And why aren't we talking about it? Well, because mainstream media doesn't want you to talk about it. Mainstream media wants you to be uncomfortable. They want you to be scared. They want you to be nervous. People that are afraid are easier to control. People that don't know who they are easier to control. People who have a loss of identity are easier to control. People who don't have direction in their life are easier to control. You know, you look at cults, and why are cults successful? Because they go to people who are struggling to know who they are and to have direction. So they give them, they feed them, this is who you are. This is who you're going to be. This is the direction to follow. So to have somebody come up to me and say, well, God is your cult, essentially. God is the thing you believe in because you can't function in life. It's sick that somebody would say something like that. That my maker has now been dwindled down to the same thing as artificial intelligence. That my maker has been dwindled down to the same thing as a cult leader. That my maker has been dwindled down to just another decision on the table instead of the only decision at the table. God created humanity, died for humanity, protects humanity, and now in 2023, humanity went, no, that was a nice fable, but it doesn't exist. And I joke with people about this, but it's sadly, I think there's truth to it. If Jesus came right now to Syracuse, New York, and he stood in Clinton Square, and he turned water into wine, people would say it was a magic trick. It didn't actually happen. If he levitated off the air and was just floating, people would say, nah, there's a string. No, that's not real. Somebody doctored this video. People could be standing right there in Clinton Square saying someone doctored the video where there's no video. You're literally looking at him. He's right in front of you. You can touch him. Because that's how brainwashed people are now. They've been told what to believe. And for some odd reason, some of this stuff has stuck. And they just stick with it now. And that's it. And nobody can change their mind. They want to change everybody else's mind, but nobody can change theirs. And I was born into this. I was born around this notion. I've been with it 38 years. You cannot ask something of someone that you are unwilling to do yourself. You cannot ask someone to do the research if you don't. You can't ask somebody to be honest if you aren't. You can't ask somebody to be fair if you aren't. You can't ask somebody to be trustworthy if you're not. But people do it all the time. So why don't we call it out? Why don't we talk about it? Why don't we discuss it? Which is what I'm trying to do on this show. Dan, this is a sports show. Why would you take Wake Up Call and instead of interviewing a football coach today, you're talking about God and you're talking about loss of identity? Because this isn't just a sports show. And it was never meant to just be a sports show. And if I'm not helping humanity, then I'm failing you. Because silence is being complicit. And I'm not complicit. Wake Up Call is meant to be whatever it is that day. Yes, we talk about sports, but what's my tagline? Where sports meets life. And I created segments like the Annoying Moment of the Week and Lead and Top Dog and the Ingredients to Success, all with a purpose to help spread logic, reason, rationale, kindness, faith, goodness, empathy, comedy, levity, because we need it. We need it. And some sports fans might say, I'm not going to listen to Wake Up Call because Dan should be talking about college basketball right now, and he's talking about God, and it's pissing me off. And you know what? That's your choice. But if God took me today and I went up to heaven and he said, before you come in, why'd you talk about what you talked about today? If I said to God, because everybody wanted me to, because that's what they wanted, because I was looking at the polls and that's what they needed today, so I gave them what they wanted, I gave them what they needed, he would say, okay, but who are you? What did you want? This is your show. You're just doing what you think people want you to do? Yeah, God, I'm a people pleaser. I want to get as many likes and followers as I possibly can get. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of people in heaven that don't have any Twitter followers. They got to heaven because they followed God, not because people followed them. And I know that I'm speaking in gibberish right now to some people, but how do we continue to live in a society that is so hypocritical, negative, blasphemous, argumentative, polarizing? I mean, is this what you want? Is this what you want? To be afraid to talk about AI because you don't want AI to listen. There shouldn't be any AI. There should be no artificial intelligence. I'm not saying don't create technology for medicine and this and that, but find a different way than having something think for itself. What happens in the middle of surgery when artificial intelligence decides this person isn't worth saving? Yeah, we have the medicine and the technology to save this person, but I don't feel like doing it today. What happens when that happens? Artificial intelligence might help us cure cancer, but what if artificial intelligence reads up and says, oh, there's a population issue in America, so we have the opportunity to cure cancer, but as artificial intelligence, we're choosing not to cure cancer. Because if we cure cancer, then the population crisis will continue, and then the earth will hurt, and there won't be enough resources, so let these people die. That's what you're creating. You're creating something that has the capacity to do good, but it wasn't made by us. And it also has the capacity to do evil. And it doesn't have a soul. So what are you trying to accomplish? Well, if we create this, we'll have help for the doctors. Yes. You'll also have something that can decide for a doctor that it's not going to do it. Yeah, Dan, but the robot will have a steady hand where the doctor's hand might shake. Yeah. And that robot might decide that it doesn't want to. And if the doctor tries to do it, the robot might retaliate. We got to stop playing God. And we need to start acting in God's image and likeness. That's why that's who we are. Okay? We need to start acting better. We're looking for a God when there's been one here. We're looking for something to worship when he's never left. So when I ask the question, who are you? Can you answer that? Do you know who you are? Are you proud of who you are? Can you tell me who you are? Can you stand up straight when you say it? Because there's a lot of people in America that turn on the TV in the morning and whatever the TV tells them to do, gosh darn it, they do it. And that is horrifying. There are people that could turn on the news today and hear somebody say, you should go kill 10 people. And they'll go, okay. Brainwash complete. I tell people all the time, I'm a member of the media by what it says on my badge. But as far as acting like the media, I am the farthest thing from it. I am proud to be in the media, but I am not proud of the media. There are good people within it, and there are other people that are in it. And they thrive on controlling you. I don't seek to control anybody. I could say something on the show you totally disagree with, and we can have proper discourse about it as long as you're respectful and you justify your opinion. You may not agree with me. You don't have to. But if you respect me and I respect you, why can't we talk about it? Right? I might say Florida State's the best team in college football. You might totally disagree with me. I give my facts, you give your facts. Let's have a conversation. And at the end of the day, maybe you change my mind, maybe I change your mind, maybe neither one of us changes our minds, but if we come at it with respect and we justify our opinion with factual evidence, aren't we all the more better? And then we let the people decide. Greg, I figured you would appreciate that. By the way, Florida State is the best team in the country right now. So, them in Georgia, in my opinion, based on being tested. I'm not saying Michigan or Ohio State couldn't be the best team in the country. They just haven't been tested. Not like Georgia and not like Florida State. And I don't have a dog in the race. I didn't grow up a fan of any one of those four teams. So for me to make the statement I'm saying, I'm not defending anybody. You know, do I know Mike Norvell, the Florida State head coach? Yeah. But that's not why I'm saying they're the best team. Because if I'm saying that with no factual evidence, then I just look like an idiot. And there are people that do that all the time. Shock jocks. That's not me. You know, I don't think there's a lot of people out there saying negative stuff about the Big Ten. Or I shouldn't even say negative stuff, but questioning the Big Ten. Questioning their unfair advantage. I don't know if there's a ton of people out there doing that. But I didn't set out in my career to ever question the Big Ten. The College Football Playoff Committee and the AP and the coaches poll have left me no choice. And trust me, there was other times where I questioned the SEC. And there's times where I question why the American didn't have this and why Cincinnati wasn't in the College Football Playoff a year earlier, why UCF wasn't in it when they went 25-0. And they changed an entire coaching staff and went undefeated the following season. Who changes their entire coaching staff and continues to win every single game? Has that ever been done in history in any sport before? Look it up. Has a team of any sport at any time collegiately in football done what UCF did? And then even beyond that, have you ever seen a coaching change and a team go undefeated after the coaching change? A team that went undefeated with that coach, then lost that coach, that whole staff, and then went undefeated with a new coach and new staff the following season immediately after. Has that ever happened? I don't think it has. I have never heard of it happening, and I witnessed it. I covered that team. I went to their championship game. I'm not here to defend with partiality. I'm here to defend logic and reason and rationale. I'm not going to defend, oh, well, that's what everybody says, and that's the sexy pick, and that's the pick. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. And to get back to who are you, I'm not like the rest of the media. Not because I wanted to be different, but because I refuse to lie to you. And I'm not saying everybody in the media lies. There's some really great people in the media. But there's also other people that don't tell the truth, that want to control you, that seek to control you. Think about it right now. If they told you right now in Central New York that there was a potential disaster coming, they didn't tell you what it is, what it looked like, what it sounded like, what it felt like, but they told you that there was a disaster coming and you needed to brace yourself. And they put an alert on the radio, and they put a red line on the bottom line of your television today, and they told you go buy water, go buy toilet paper, and stay sheltered in your house. Do you know how many people would do that right now? If they said on Sunday of this week something horrible is coming. We can't tell you what it is. We can't tell you when it's coming. We can't give you a time, but we can tell you it's going to be here Sunday. Go buy water, go buy toilet paper, shelter in your house. Do you know how many people would do that? A lot. Out of fear. And fear is control. How many people would ask, well, what is it? Why can't you tell us? Right? You're going to get some people that are like, I'm just going to go about my life, whatever. I'll handle it when it gets here. There's other people that will sit in their house terrified, staring at the television. If they told you right now that if you bought a chicken costume, it would cure COVID, chicken costumes would sell out on Amazon because there's enough crazy people to believe stupid things. Enough impressionable people. I shouldn't even say crazy. Enough people that are just impressionable. They just do what they're told. They do what they're told. If the media, mainstream media, wasn't so anti-God, and they said, believe in God, a lot of people would go, okay. Right? Remember when they told us, don't eat eggs, they're not healthy for you? And then like a few months later, a couple of years later, they're like, eat eggs, they're good for you. Then they said, well, eat an egg, not the yolk. And then they said, no, the yolk's okay. Do you know how many times eggs have been good, bad, in between? Eat the egg, don't eat the egg. Eat the white, eat the yolk, don't eat the yolk. Eat just the white. No, wait, don't eat the white, just eat the yolk. It's like, sweet mother of the goodness. What do I do? How do you change your mind on the egg? We've learned that the eggs are healthy. We've learned that they're not. They have to be farm fresh. They have to be raised this way. They have to only come from Wisconsin. No, they can come from Minnesota. No, they can come from Mexico. You know what? Don't even eat them. Bananas are good for you. Actually, they're not good for you. They're good for potassium. Well, they're not good for potassium. Well, they're going to give you enough potassium. Well, you shouldn't eat a lot of them. How many times has the media changed its opinion on something and we've just gone, okay? You know, think about it. You've probably found people are telling you the Marvel Cinematic Universe is over. And right now, you might believe it because their movies haven't done that well. But they said the Marvel Cinematic Universe was coming to an end years ago before Infinity War came out. And back then, some people believed it because they were told it, and other people were like, these movies are awesome. But you might believe it now because the movies haven't been that good, in my opinion. But in your opinion, maybe the movies are great. I like the series Loki. It's confusing, but I really like it. You might hate it. Does that make you wrong? Does it make me wrong? But if mainstream media told you to like it or to hate it, do you know how many people would have never watched it and had an opinion? You know how many people comment on your social media that didn't even watch the video? I've had people comment on my social media asking me questions and disrespecting me because I didn't give them enough information, and the information they were asking for was actually in the thing that they replied to. I had somebody say to me, Dan, if you want us to try this, why didn't you tell us anything about it? And I was like, I described the entire thing in the message that you just replied to. And they wrote back to me with a thumbs up. And you're like, are you that stupid? Or did you just want to fight with somebody today? Or were you doing it just because you wanted me to respond to you so that you felt like you mattered? But, I mean, do you know, I've sent a text message to somebody before. I said, I'll see you Thursday, November 12th at 7 p.m. And they said, cool, just send me a time. And I'm like, so they didn't even read it. They didn't even read the message that they just replied. How many times someone will reply to a message on social media, text message, they will reply an email, they'll reply to the exact thing that has the answer they're looking for, asking you where the answer is. And you think to yourself, they either didn't read it, they're screwing with me, they're just trying to fight with somebody. But what is the point of that? What is the point of that? Greg said the Black Mirror series on Netflix is a real eye-opening depiction of today's society. Pretty scary and sadly true. Yeah, man. And that's and Greg, I would tell you to watch The Boys and Gen V on Amazon Prime. I really would, because it is a very accurate. They're talking about superheroes, but amidst all of this stuff, there's a lot of accurate. It's something they're taking something that's superhuman, but they're like showing all of these human issues that are around it, and it's. I mean, there's a person with powers. I don't want to call him a superhero because I don't think he is, but there's a person with powers that has so much power, yet if society doesn't like them and they're not trending, they can't function. You know, someone who could probably destroy the entire planet by themselves has all of this power, but if somebody walks up to them on the street and says, "You're ugly, you're fat, you're old, you're stupid," this person legitimately can't function. And it causes them to like hurt people and to respond in a negative way because they can't deal with anybody disagreeing with them or saying anything negative about them ever. All the power in the world and beyond, but one person's opinion ruins their day. How crazy is that? Right? So there's a lot of stuff out there that is questioning society, but they're doing it in such a way where like it's not slamming in your face. So you're watching the show, right? You're going, I like superheroes. Let's see what The Boys is all about. But the message in that, the message about friendship, the message about being an honest person, the message about how far are you willing to go? Are you willing to become the thing that you hate in order to defeat that thing? There's all these underlying questions that are huge in our society right now. But they're being told in this story where you're like watching the action and adventure. So, you know, they're able to get the message across to you without you feeling like somebody's like shoving it in your face. And that to me is art. I can't tell you who, you know, everybody is that's worked on the show The Boys, but incredible way of really making people think about a lot of things without kind of just like screaming at them like a car salesman, you know? So, I mean, going back to our topic lead, who are you? You got to figure that out, or else somebody's going to figure it out for you. And that's the truth. You know, artificial intelligence will tell you who you are. The media will tell you who you are. People that you go to high school with will tell you who you are, how you should dress, what you should do. It never turns out well, by the way. If somebody else tells you who you are, it never turns... I mean, I'm not saying like a loving mother sitting with you and you're having an identity crisis and they're like, baby, I know who you are. You're smart. You're kind. You're that girl that grew up, you know, always helping, always being good to animals. You've had a heart for everything. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when someone... I'm not saying... Because I feel like in today's society, you have to like... And I'm not going to do this on the show. And I'm not going to do it in real life because it causes anxiety to the point where you'd blow up. That every sentence you say, you have to describe why you said that sentence. You have to define every sentence that you say. So you can't get like a real conversation out because you're so worried about, I said this sentence and someone's going to find a way to make this sentence wrong. So you're like, hey, don't let anybody tell you who you are. In parentheses, well, if you have a loving person in your life remind you of who you are, that's different. Out of parentheses, let's continue. I mean, it's like there's got to be a stupid disclaimer on every sentence we say in today. No, okay? Sometimes we just need to call people crazy. Sometimes we just need to say what it is and just be honest about what it is. We live in a society right now where people desperately want people to tell them that everything is okay that they do. And sometimes things that people do are not okay. Sometimes actions that they take are not okay. Sometimes decisions that they make are not okay. So, no. I say no. I got something right when you come into my studio that says compromise where you can. I want to read the full statement to you. So this is what it says. Compromise where you can. Where you can't, don't. Even if everyone is telling you that something wrong is something right. Even if the whole world is telling you to move. It is your duty to plant yourself like a tree, look them in the eye, and say, no, you move. You have to know who you are, or you will compromise everything that makes you who you are. You have to know you. We may not know anything else in this world, but you got to know yourself. Because if somebody walked up to you today and said, who are you? And put the microphone in your face, what's the first thing that would come to mind? I'm a human being. I'm Dave. I believe in God. I'm a teacher. I'm a father. I'm a mother. I'm a parent. I'm a student. I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. I'm a dog dad. I'm a free bird. I believe in the universe. What would you say? If somebody came up to you right now and said, who are you? What would you say? I'm Daniel. Do you say your name? Do you say your career? Do you say your faith? Do you say your desires? Do you say your wants? Do you say your hopes? Do you say your dreams, your aspirations, where you're from? What would you say if somebody said, who are you? Because the better you know yourself and why you are who you are, because sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong, but if you know your why, if you know why you think this way, why you act this way, why you are who you are, then it can help you figure out why you've chosen to be that person. And if you know your whys, then it might help you grow and evolve. When you say, I'm an angry person because I grew up in a household where my father was abusive to my mother. Okay, so you know you're an angry person. But if you know why you are, because of what you saw in your household, there's a chance that you can evolve and not stay an angry person because you know the root of where it came from. The better you know yourself, the less impressionable you become. The better you know yourself, you know your why. And if you know your why, you're going to know when you're wrong and you're going to know when you're right. Because you're going to know where it comes from. Right? Maybe you're dating somebody, right? You're dating somebody, girl or a guy, they're great. They're great. And they show you love and affection. They hug you all the time. They hug you, they want to hold your hand, and you just push their hand away. You say, why you hug me so much? Why you touch me so much? Why are you in my space? And they look at you and they go, because I love you. Simple as that. I love you. And then you think about it and you go, wow, why do I push away kindness? Why do I have a problem when they hug me and they kiss me and hold my hand? Why do I have a problem with that? Because I was in all these relationships where people didn't hug me and didn't show me affection. I was just like this person I'm dating. I used to hug them and kiss them and hold their hand, and they used to push me away. And now I've become them. Oh my God, I don't want to be that way. They caused me so much pain that now when somebody shows me love, I don't believe that it's real. Now I know, because I know me. So now I can change. Now I can realize that I'm pushing away love because people pushed away my love. And so if I really love this person, I have to stop pushing them away. But I know that because I know me, and I know my why, and I know where I came from. Everybody wants to tell everybody who to be. How about figuring out who you are? Let them figure out who they are. But who are you? It doesn't mean don't lead, don't guide, don't parent. We need all of that. But eventually, no matter how much you parent and how well you think you parented or how terrible you think you parented, your child is going to make decisions. And sometimes you're going to agree with them and sometimes you're not. You could think in your head, If I'm a good parent, my child will never leave home. If I'm a good parent, my child will go to school close. My child will not be more than an hour away from me if I'm a good parent. And then your child says, I'm going to California, Dad. And you think, wow, if I was a good parent, they'd want to be around me. Why do they want to go to the other side of the country? They must hate me. No. It's because that's the best school for what she wants to study. And she's thinking about her life and her dreams and her aspirations. And so instead of thinking she must hate you because she wants to go across the country, how about this? How about you taught her to stand on her own 2 feet, that she even believes that she can be away from you and be successful? Glass half full. If you raise somebody who believes that they can do something and is willing to challenge themselves and go out of their comfort zone, you didn't fail them. You succeeded. You succeeded. You might get that kid that never wants to leave home, but what if it's because they don't believe that they can aspire to be anything? What if it's because they want you to take care of them for the rest of their lives? They never leave home because they know that you coddle them. They know that you're going to bail them out of everything and help them with everything. You bailed them out when they were 15. Now they're 32 years old and you're still doing it. And they're still doing it. Because why would they stop? They've spent 17 years abusing the privilege of having you as a parent. And you've let them. So, it's... Sometimes you just have to think about what's going on. My parents only have me. So they didn't want me to go to school far. But talk to my parents now. And I'm 38 years old. My mom and dad are like, he travels all over the place. If he wants to go to Africa, he's going to go. If he believes that there's something there, there's a story for him to tell, and there's somebody that he can help, he's going to do it, and we're going to support him. And they supported me when I went 2 hours away to school, and they would have supported me if I decided, you know what, I'm going to go farther. Because the reality of it all is, as much as somebody might try to make a decision for you, if someone truly loves you, if they truly love you, then whatever they want is eventually going to take a back seat to what they know is truly your desire. You can't make somebody love you. You can't make somebody stay. And you, in the same respect, shouldn't be allowing somebody to depict who you are, to say who you are, to speak for you, and to make you a chameleon. Know who you are. Know what you stand for. Know your why. Or else you're going to be a weapon for anybody at any given time. They're going to be able to use you to fit their needs. Because if you don't know who you are, somebody's going to tell you who you are. And in the society we live in, America today, that is exactly what's happening. There's a bunch of people looking for direction, looking for something to believe in. And instead of teaching them about the God that made them, they're trying to be their God. Because they see that as control. God gave us free will. God, who could make us love him, chose not to. God, who could literally snap his fingers and make all of us walk as robots, chose not to. And people would rather believe in artificial intelligence and the media and all this stuff that's out there than believe in God. When that stuff, it wants to control you. Algorithms want to control you. You go on Facebook, what did Facebook tell you? We don't listen to you. We don't record you. We don't monitor what you do on the internet. And you look up one pair of sneakers, and you go on Facebook 2 seconds later, and that pair of sneakers is there. And then 2 days later, the company that makes those sneakers is there. And then 2 days after that, the restaurant you just went to is there. And the restaurants that are in the same company chain, they're there. But they don't listen. Are you kidding me? Start paying attention, folks. There are so many things in this world that seek to control you, And the God that created you has never once chosen to control you. And you would rather not believe in that God that gave you free will and believe in all the things that are trying to steal your free will away. Ain't that something? Think. Don't let somebody think for you. Who are you? Only you can decide. Or else it'll be decided for you. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York, open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Rd in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Kampground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Kampground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Kampground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9Campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9Campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout central and upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. This is a special message from 317 at Montgomery restaurant owner Joel Carpenter. Open Tuesday through Saturday for your dining pleasure on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York.
We wanted to be a part of the resurgence of Syracuse. We saw a lot of money being put into bringing people back downtown and thought that, we'd like to be a part of that. I love putting together a good dish where people see it first, they fall in love with it, and then it tastes just as good as it looks. We want to provide the best food in Syracuse that we possibly can, and we want you to leave here talking to your family, your friends about what you had to eat first and foremost, but also our service, and to walk out feeling like you're part of our family. I work out in the front of the house a lot, and I love walking to every single table, asking them how everything is, and people looking at me and smiling and saying, this is the most amazing short rib I've ever had. This is the most amazing filet I've ever had. And Donna is great. Sarah's amazing. Thank you for coming over and talking to us. And then them just being truly happy for the experience that they've gotten.
317 at Montgomery Restaurant, part of the fabric of downtown Syracuse, located on 317 Montgomery Street in Syracuse, New York. Open Tuesday through Saturday for a unique and memorable dining experience. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, inside of Where Sports Meets Life. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The commissioner is coming up here in our special momentarily, but before we go there, we must go here into the top dog of the week, proudly presented by the fantastic team at K9 Camp Dog Daycare and K9 Kampground Dog. My top dog of the week, listen, folks, I'm an impartial broadcaster, so my top dog of the week are the Texas Rangers. You know I'm a Diamondbacks fan, been a Diamondbacks fan since the beginning, 1998. Love my Diamondbacks, always have, always will. And with that being said, give credit where credit is due. The Texas Rangers are the top dogs of the week. Their pitching, their defense, their hitting. Their bats came on when they needed to. They were never out of really any game except for the 9-1 game that the Diamondbacks won, and they got it done. The Texas Rangers have never won a championship in over 6 decades. That is over now. They have now won a World Series. In my brain, and probably in your brain, you thought the Texas Rangers have won a World Series. There's no way they couldn't have. I thought in my head that I had seen it, that it had happened, but it never had. So the Texas Rangers winning their first ever World Series, and they are the top dogs of the week because of everything that they did to get to where they were. They did not have an easy road to get there.
They had to go through the Tampa Bay Rays, who was a team that was just shy of 100 wins this season. And then beyond that, they had to go through the Houston Astros. And the Houston Astros are no small feat by any stretch of the imagination. The Houston Astros pushing the way that they did. Look at the Texas Rangers were leading the division, then the Astros were, and then the Rangers were again. And then with a week to go, the Astros ended up winning the division, and they get a bye. They didn't have to play in the wild card round, and the Rangers had to play in the wild card round. So the Rangers have been tested. They've been through a lot, and they found a way to get to the end of everything and to win the World Series. So they are my top dogs of the week because they absolutely have earned the right to be called that. They went through the number 1 seeded Baltimore Orioles, who had won the second most games in all of Major League Baseball this season, second only to the Atlanta Braves. I believe the Orioles had 101 wins and the Braves had 104 in the regular season. The Rangers beat the Tampa Bay Rays 2-0. They beat the Orioles, the number 1 seed, 3-0, and then they beat the Houston Astros in a 7-game series 4-3 to go on and face the Arizona Diamondbacks, who had defeated the Brewers, the Dodgers, and the Phillies to get to the World Series. Two teams that many thought were not going to get there, and they both were able to achieve that feat. Both were able to get there, and the Texas Rangers won it all. And I got to give them all of the, credit and respect because they were a tough out, a really difficult team, and you could see that first game. You thought, okay, you know what? The Diamondbacks should have had that game, and let's see what they do as they move forward. And the Rangers just kept finding ways to be competitive, to stay in it, and to be successful. And they're my top dogs of the week. And when I say them as the top dogs, Nathan Eovaldi for the way that he played. John Gray. You look at the work that the pitching staff put in general. I know Scherzer only played a certain amount of time, but, getting to see him with the Syracuse Mets, congratulations to him. And to Jacob deGrom, who got a World Series ring, even though we didn't get to see him. Aroldis Chapman and the work that he did as well. Josh Sabor's, Cody Brad. Literally just going up and down the line here. Jose Leclerc, as well as Jonah Heim, Marcus Semien, who came on in the World Series, Josh Jung, of course, Corey Seager, Evan Carter, and so on and so forth. This team did it all. And they beat a really strong, really good, really nothing to lose Arizona Diamondbacks team. So, and like Greg said, 11-0 in road playoff games. And the Arizona Diamondbacks were phenomenal on the road. And the Rangers were even better this postseason. So, as a fan, of course it's hard. As a fan, it's difficult to sit here and talk about anybody else other than your team winning the World Series, especially when your team makes the World Series. But as an impartial broadcaster, which I think it's a cardinal sin to be partial, how can you not sit here today and call the Texas Rangers the top dog of this week? They came in to the World Series and they won it in 5 games, 4-1. They had been pushing teams to the brink. The Diamondbacks had been pushing teams to the brink. And then they came to the World Series and they shut the door early. So, to the Texas Rangers, congratulations on being our top dogs of the week. Arizona, I love you, and I always will. Texas Rangers, big time congrats. You deserve it. You've earned it. Your first ever World Series championship in over 6 decades. And Greg talking about them Binghamton Rumble Ponies. They used to be called the Stud Muffins, by the way. So, it's crazy, the names. And see, the thing is, I like the AAA names and the single A and the double A. I like the names, and I want to buy the hats. And then you go to buy the hats, and the hats are like $35, $40 per hat. To buy like a AAA hat. That's crazy. But I like the logos. But I'm not paying $40 for the hat. I'll pay $40 for a Diamondbacks World Series hat, but I'm not paying $40 for these other hats just because I like the logo. So, let's make these AAA, single A, and double A hats a little bit less expensive, and that would be great. So, I would definitely tell y'all, Texas Ranger fans out there, congratulations. celebrate. Y'all had a fantastic series and had a fantastic run to your first ever World Series. And like I'm saying, I mean, I'm stunned that the Texas Rangers had never won a World Series before. Coming in, I didn't know that because in my head they had done it. You know, and that's my respect for the franchise. So, I didn't know. Congratulations to the Texas Rangers on winning your first ever World Series. You are our top dogs of the week. Your pitching, your hitting, your defense. You took a really, 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 really good Arizona team and you found a way to beat them. So you're the top dogs. That's what Greg said. DeGrom rehabbing. Yeah, DeGrom came through Syracuse. So did Max Scherzer, by the way. So pretty cool to see all of that. With that being said, we're going to take our final step aside. We'll be back with the commissioner right after this.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Picture in picture with somebody you've never seen before on the show. It's a first-time guest. You've never seen this. I'm kidding. So Mike Oresco, he has been with me for many years, a decade. He may be the most common guest, or one of the most common guests on the show. I can tell you this. I always love having him on the broadcast because he is a person of his word. He is somebody who cares about people. He cares about the teams within his conference. He cares about the teams even when they're leaving the conference and the institutions. He has been a consummate professional. He has been kind. He has been humble. And he always makes time, which is something you can never get back. So I appreciate that beyond so many things. And in today's world where we ask ourselves a lot of times, what is real? One thing that I know is real is the bonds and the relationship I have on and off the fields and courts of life with Mike Oresco, somebody that I respect more than most. So with that being said, American Athletic Conference Commissioner, Mr. Oresco, how are you?
Well, thank you, Dan, and that's awfully kind of you. That's very nice. Appreciate it. Same thing. Appreciate you. Appreciate your dedication, your commitment, and also, you know, covering us and knowing what we're doing the homework. Doing what it takes to make these conversations. I find very interesting because one, I know that you're on top of it. You always ask the questions that matter. And it means something to me to have someone who, going back even a little more than a decade ago, believed that we would be a viable league and that we would be competitive. And not a lot of people did, as you know, at the time. And even now, a lot of people were questioning us in the realignment. And I do think we've got some growing pains this year, but it's clear that we've got another good league in the making over the next decade. But the challenges will be different because of the portal and year in residency going away and NIL and all those things. But anyway, it's a long-winded way of saying thanks for having me, Dan, and I appreciate you and all you do for not only college football, college sports, but for the various conferences. So happy to be with you.
No, and I appreciate it very much, Mike, and I appreciate your kind words as well. So let's jump right into it. I know that you're running around. I'm running around as well. And I guess going off of what you said, I can say that I can never be called a bandwagon in coverage of the American. You can never call me a bandwagon broadcaster, just like you can never call me a bandwagon Diamondback fan, because it's been since day zero. And I will continue to wear this no matter what happens with my team and no matter what year it is. So shout out to the Diamondbacks, 22 years. I was 16 when they won the World Series. Now I'm 38 and I get to watch it again. Got to bring my dad. So there's a lot of things that have happened. Right. You've been busy. You and I talked a couple weeks ago, and you said we're probably a couple weeks out from Army joining the conference. Army has joined in football only. They joined Navy in doing that. So you have 2 out of the 3 military schools joining in football only, but it brings you back to 14 in football, and it protects the schedule, I would like to think, for the foreseeable future. So what can you say about why you brought in Army and what this does for scheduling? Can they kind of fit right into where SMU is exiting? Do you have to move some teams around? So I would love to hear why Army first and foremost, and then secondly, what it does to the schedule.
Well, first of all, taking that last thing first, you can't just plug them into SMU. You just don't do it that way because, one, there are different kinds of scheduling options when you have Army in. Also, Army's non-conference games are not going to be on the same days as SMU's were. You can't simply plug them in. You got to redo it, and we're going to redo that schedule. Probably have something fairly soon, at least the outlines. Within a month, we probably will know whom our teams are playing, so Army will know its opponents. We won't actually have a schedule until, as you know, late February, early March, but at least in the interim, you'll know who they're playing. As far as Army joining, we're thrilled. Obviously, we've been interested in Army for a long time. The fact that Army was an independent made things easier on one level. You didn't have the secrecy that you like to see. And when I say secrecy, I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean that you want to make sure that you don't rile the waters. When you're talking to somebody who's expressed interest from another conference, it's different than an independent. On the other hand, there were a lot of complications to getting Army in because they have a deal with CBS Sports Network currently that has 5 more years to run. Yeah. They have, being an independent, there's an awful lot of games they have to delete from their schedule going forward. And they didn't have a great experience in Conference USA years ago, so they had to overcome that hurdle, especially with their board and their fans. But why Army? That was, your question, and it's a good question. It is the question. First of all, I could cite all the different things in the micro sense. Army is a national brand, right? They're in the New York market. They're very competitive. Jeff Monken has done a remarkable job. They're extremely competitive. When you look at where they were when they had that 14-game losing streak to Navy, and then all of a sudden Jeff comes and he's rebuilt that program, and they'll compete immediately in our league for championships. But you could mention other things that Army brings. They increase your attendance because people love to go watch Army. Ratings will increase when Army plays. I think people follow Army. They have a national appeal. But first and foremost, it's a privilege to have another one of the service academies, West Point, with all that history, tradition. It's a storied program, but it's also a storied place, and it has a place in our history. It transcends sports, and to have them in our conference along with Navy is, in my view, a privilege, period. And so consequently, those other things certainly matter, but when you can have Army and you can have Navy, then I think you've got something special, period. They're student athletes, and I did address the team when I went up to West Point for our press conference. They're the best of the best. These are men and women, and obviously in football, the men are going to be in harm's way. They're protecting our freedoms. It's more than a game when Army and Navy play. And although that game is not going to be part of our conference schedule, it's not part of our conference deal, the point is Army is special, Navy special, and to have them in the conference is absolutely it's an honor. Now, this was a complicated deal in some ways, and Mike Buddy did an interview recently in which he said, essentially neither side was desperate to do this. And what he meant by that is they could easily have remained independent without the right financial situation and without the right deal. We could easily have stayed at 13. We didn't want to stay at 13 because you mentioned, I think you alluded to the fact that it's better to be at 14, an even number. If you're at 13, it creates all sorts of problems in November, especially with buys, and one team has a buy, another team doesn't. A lot of issues there. You're much better at 14, but it had to be the right fit. I think it ended up proving to be the right fit. The other thing is, when you look at Army's situation, for the next 5 years, they can't deliver unless they change their deal with CBS, and that's not likely. They can't deliver home games. And therefore, you don't end up with any additional games. If you have a 13-team league and you have a 14th team that can't deliver home games, you end up with the same number of games. So that's an issue for ESPN. But we worked through it, and we let ESPN know that we were interested in Army, and ultimately, took them. And ESPN's always great. They don't get involved in this. They don't tell you that this school or that school is the right school. They don't get involved in that, and they've kept hands off. And I can attest to that going back from the time we started adding teams. But once you do add a team, you talk to ESPN about the deal, and I think they're very happy that we have Army in the league. The fact that we have 2 football-only schools is not an issue at all. Navy was extremely supportive of this. Yeah. And that's, I think, a tribute to Admiral Fred Kacher and, of course, Chet Gladchuk. But General Steve Gillen was very supportive at Army. Mike Buddy, a tremendous relationship I've developed with Mike, total trust. Mike Buddy did a great job. Some of this leaked, and it always does, but it wasn't at the end of the world because Army's an independent. Yeah. And so it was less of an issue. And then finally, we had to be sensitive to our new members, Dan. We had just took in 6 new members under certain conditions. We also had to be sensitive to the fact that Navy's been in our conference for 9 years. But Army was sensitive to that too. And that's why it was a deliberate, excellent negotiation. Neither side felt pressure that they had to do this. And that's probably the best, to be honest, when you think about it, that's the best way to proceed. Because then you're doing it because both sides really want to do it, but they don't necessarily have to. They're not forced into it. And then finally, I think Army feels differently about this than clearly they did about Conference USA years ago. And it wasn't that Conference USA was not a good league, but they weren't necessarily ready competitively to be in that league, and they are now, without question. In addition, and again, Mike Buddy can speak to this better than I can, I think they just felt that the alignment with our conference was better. We have 3 AAU schools. We have a number of R1 research institutions. We have schools that in the area where they like to recruit. And as General Gillen said, not just recruit football players, but recruit student athletes and students for the Army.
Yeah.
And even people who don't go to West Point who would maybe join the Army. And again, as I said, Mike Buddy was great to work with. General Gillen, I got to meet. I hadn't met him before. Very impressive. Jeff Monken, it speaks for itself what he's done there. And they're struggling a bit this year, but that's just a transitional thing. He'll have tremendous programs year in and year out because he's just an outstanding coach. And they'll compete for titles right away. They will benefit, I think, financially from this. But finally, I'll close, Dan, by saying just going to West Point again, people may not know, but I was at CBS for 16 years and handled the Army-Navy game. That was one of my programming responsibilities. And it was a privilege to do that. And so I visited West Point a number of times. I've been to the Spirit Lunches that they have on Thursdays. I've been to games there, to iconic Mikey Stadium. I've been to, obviously, Navy a number of times. And so it's great to have gone back. Especially in the fall colors, you don't get a lot of that in Texas, Yeah. And so it was great to see, but you realize you're on hallowed ground. There's a special feeling you get when you're on that. I almost hesitate to call it a campus because it's more than a campus, and overlooking the Hudson and all that history, Eisenhower, Patton, it's, and then you look at football and you look at, the Heisman Trophy winners. You look at Red Blake, the famous coach, Vince Lombardi coached there. That is a storied program. Pete Dawkins winning the Heisman, others, the famous Army Notre Dame game in New York City. I mean, there's just so much history. And so consequently, very excited about it. Very, very, our membership is excited. And as I told the people at West Point, they were extremely supportive and wanted to get this done. So again, we're thrilled to have Army. I think Army will be a great addition to the conference. Happy to be again at 14, but happy to be at 14 in the right manner, with a program like Army.
So before I let you go, Mike, how does it work? Like you said, they're going to benefit financially. How do you benefit from it? How does everything work with your deal with ESPN, their deal with CBS? How does that all come together for Army, number one, working everything out in that respect? And number two, when you look at the reimagining of your schedule in the American, are we going to keep rivalry games? What are we going to kind of create in that? So I would love to know the financial side of it for the conference and for Army. What do we do with the schedule? And then lastly, was this always something you wanted to do, is to have a New York market team in the American?
It was less a New York market team than it was the national brand that Army is, and the again, the fact that having a service academy in this conference is special. Having Navy all these years has been special. The fact that it brings a New York market is an added bonus. There's no question about it, because people don't sometimes realize that West Point is the New York market, and they get a lot of attention in New York, and that helps us. It helps them too, though, I think, to be in our conference and to get all that ESPN exposure. Now, in terms of finances, I can't get into the actual finances, Dan. I can't talk about those, but I can say that this will financially benefit Army, and we'll be fine too as a conference, because ESPN's been very supportive of this. They feel that Army's a good addition to our conference, and so we're going to be fine in that regard. We do have to, obviously, we're not going to have Army's home games, it looks like, for at least 5 years. We don't know, though. They may figure out some way to work something out with CBS, but maybe not. They haven't been able to at this point, and maybe they won't. Point is, doesn't matter. We've already accounted for that. Will Army help the conference in other ways? Sure. Attendance when Army visits one of our schools. And by the way, I believe our schools in the recent past have had 27 games against Army, and Jeff Monken's been part of that. I think Mike Buddy mentioned that they were 14-13 against our teams that are currently in our conference. I know Tulane has played Army regularly and loves it. And same thing with UTSA recently. North Texas has played Army at home and home. People love playing Army. Our schools will love going to Army. They'll love going to Mikey Stadium. Ratings, I think, will improve. I think Army is again a national brand, and they'll play competitive games in our conference that will generate good ratings. And we can help Army because of the promotion, but also something I didn't mention earlier. This gives Army a chance to play for a championship and also in a great league and a CFP spot. You saw Tulane ahead in the CFP race. Now, knock on wood, it's a long season and anything can happen. But if you're a top team in our conference, you typically have a real shot at what will be the playoff in the future. And that's attractive to Army. Also, winning a conference championship. Now, you may say, well, wait a minute. What if Navy and Army are both 1-2 in our conference, which could happen? I don't know what the odds are. I'm not going to speculate. But the point is, if it did happen, they are willing to play that championship game. And they would play Army-Navy a week later, and that would be the game that is the true Army-Navy game, the one for bragging rights and the one that is the Army-Navy game. But think about it. That would mean that they're both really top teams. It would mean that they both have a shot at the playoff. So it's a net plus, even though, as Jeff Monken said, it would create a very interesting situation to play Army and then play them a week later. It would be really unusual, but it has happened. As you know, UCF played Tulane a few weeks before they met in the championship game. Texas, Oklahoma may meet again in the championship game. Alabama, Georgia played in the championship game after meeting in their own championship game. It does happen. Now, with Army-Navy, it's a little different, clearly, because Army-Navy is a special game. But the point is, it would be, I think, it would not diminish the Army-Navy game a week later. In fact, if anything, it might create heightened interest in it because of the exposure. And as General Gillen pointed out, you'd have two games on national TV, back to back. One would be in all likelihood on ABC, because our championship game has been on ABC 8 straight years, and the other game would be on CBS. And how do you do better than that? So there are a lot of advantages to having Army in the league. I think also the prestige of having Army in the league, and also I think Army getting scheduling certainty and being part of a league that has been nationally relevant. One of the things when I was on the way to West Point on I think Wednesday morning, I flew in very early. Things were quiet when I left, and then they leaked, and they always do. And by the time I landed at LaGuardia and then was driving up to West Point, I had literally, I'm not kidding, easily 60 texts and emails. My phone was blowing up. Every single one of them was positive. There was not one negative email. That shows you the esteem in which Army's held. It shows you, why Army was the right team for us to take. But also, one of the emails struck me. It was from a former commissioner. I won't name him, but he said, "Finally, an expansion that makes sense." And he's right. They geographically make sense. We have Temple and Navy and East Carolina and Charlotte and a group of schools, and then they like playing in Texas, which is an easy flight, and that's where Army recruits. That's where Army has bases. That's where Army has, potentially recruits students as well as student athletes. So this really did make sense. And they were an independent, which means there aren't any of the issues that come with a school leaving a particular conference. So in that sense, Dan, you can tell I'm excited about it. I'm enthusiastic. I can't wait to get the first game at Mikey. It should be whoever gets to play in it in our league, it's a real privilege. Army has plans to renovate part of Mikey, the part that on the other side facing the lake. Really tremendous. They're spending a lot of money to do some really great renovations, but the iconic nature of that stadium will not change. And just sitting on the field, we did our press conference on the field, and we did some other things on the field. You just feel the weight of the history there, and so all good. And by the way, just as an aside, Dan, you'll get a kick out of this. Some guy, I have no idea if it's even a bot or a guy, went on did a tweet saying that we had been talking to VCU about basketball only for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Complete lie, made up out of whole cloth. haven't had any conversations with VC or anybody else about basketball only. Have no interest in any basketball only schools. That were thrilled with Wichita as a basketball only. But next thing you know, I'm getting calls. Are you really looking at VCU? And I think in part that was prompted by the fact that we took Army and therefore had two football onlys. And so suddenly somebody makes up something literally made up out of whole cloth. And that's the kind of thing you have to deal with nowadays with the rumors. I thought you'd get a kick out of that one.
Yeah, no, I definitely. I mean, people make stuff up all the time and they hope it sticks so that they can say they're first. And then the people that are first are being told that they're
Right.
80th. You know, I mean, you and I have conversations 3 weeks in advance, and then I see somebody report 3 days after I reported it when it's official. You know, we did it 3 weeks ago and we talked about it all the way to, we got it all set. And then breaking news, the American's going to add these 6 schools. And I'm like, I talked to Mike about this 3 weeks ago. So, Mike, last note, because I know you have to go, but I definitely want to get this note from you. Strength of the conference right now, where is the American at? First college football playoff ranking comes out. 7-1 Tulane is ranked 24th. So they're in it. They're the only team in from the American, but they're ranked toward the bottom. What is the strength of the conference, in your opinion, with the addition of Army, with having 14 football schools again, and when you add in Wichita having 15 members in some way, shape, or form? Where is the conference at in this world of realignment frenzy right now?
A great question, Dan, and it's one of the seminal questions for us going forward, without question. Our league is it's a little unusual for us this year. You know, first of all, that ranking, while we're thrilled that they're the highest ranked so-called G5 team, you know, I hate that term. But the point is, we've had higher ranked teams, obviously, and they could move up as their schedule gets tougher. Not that it hasn't been tough with Ole Miss and with South Alabama in the non-conference. That's one of the reasons they're ranked where they are. But we've got several really good teams. You know, Tulane, obviously Memphis, which beat Boise, which played a 14th or 15th ranked Missouri to a one-score game in St. Louis, which was essentially a Missouri home game that should have been a Memphis home game, but it had to, you know, for some reason they had to work that out. Missouri wanted to play it there. And then you look at SMU, and they are really clobbering some of our teams these days. And as you know, it was 14-11 against Oklahoma midway through the fourth quarter. They hit TCU on a day when TCU probably played its best game of the year, but again, played a tough non-conference schedule. But they have been lights out. UTSA has Frank Harris, their quarterback, back, and that's changed everything for them. They've also had some other players come back. In addition, we're starting to see improvement. North Texas has a quarterback and receiver combination that's been devastating lately, and they had a heartbreaking loss to Memphis. You know, Memphis moved down the field with 46 seconds left after North Texas had erased a 21-point deficit. So they have really, North Texas has come on. UAB found a quarterback, and they have played better. FAU is now a dangerous team. We also are a little weaker at the lower end of our conference than we've been. You know, the Temple's been struggling. Tulsa's been struggling. USF is a nice surprise, though. They played Alabama very tough, and Alex Golish has done a nice job there. But I think our league, you know, and there have been some growing pains with some of the new schools, without question. But then Rice has had an excellent year when you're really, relatively speaking. They beat Houston. They played Texas tough for, 2.5, 3 quarters. They, they kind of gave a game away to UConn. Unfortunately, that was more just mistakes. they kind of outplayed them most of the game, but made too many mistakes. But they have been, with JT Daniels, have been a really good team, and you can just see that Mike Bloomgren is building a good program there. UAB, Trent Dilfer is getting his footing there. Charlotte, Biff Poggi has an outstanding defense, just hadn't been able to find an offense, and the point is, though, those 6 schools, I think, are going to contribute, longer term. Our incumbent schools, we've got some growing pains, but Navy, for example, is still struggling, but they'll get better. They've got great defense, and they played well against Air Force on defense. They just haven't been there on offense, and they'll eventually get that straightened out. So I think the league overall is fine. We've got a top tier that's very strong. In fact, any one of those three teams that I mentioned, SMU, Memphis, and Tulane, could be ranked. And UTSA just struggled early because they didn't have Frank Harris, and they had some injuries. And if they had him, maybe they would have won 2 or 3 of their non-conference games, in which case they would be right there also with maybe only one loss. So they played at Tennessee, and that was a tough game. Last thing I'll mention, Dan, and appreciate your having me and appreciate you giving me, the time to talk about the league, is that we played, and we pointed this out to the selection committee representatives, we played the toughest non-conference schedule in the entire country. We had the highest winning percentage. We played at Washington. We played at Oklahoma. We played Oklahoma at home. We played at Michigan. We played at Clemson. We played at Georgia. We played at Tennessee. We played Alabama, at home. We played Missouri, which no one expected to be as good as they are. We played at TCU. We played Maryland, which has been a very good team this year. Gave Ohio State some trouble for a while. We have played Notre Dame. You can't play a tougher schedule than we have played. In fact, if anything, I kid our teams. We've overscheduled. We've just had so many of these games, and yet it toughens you up. And it does. We played Cal. North Texas played Cal, which recently almost beat USC. A 2-point conversion failed, or they'd have won against USC. So, again, very, very tough schedule, but that's who we are. Now, maybe in the future, the schedule shouldn't be quite that tough. But the point is, you got to give yourself a little bit of some leeway. But the point is, that's who we are. That's who this conference is. A challenge. We're not afraid to play those games, and that I think is and again, if Tulane hadn't played Ole Miss, they'd be undefeated in all likelihood. And they played them without their quarterback, and they played them toe to toe right to the end. Score didn't indicate how close the game was. It was 27-20 with just really 3 or 4 minutes left, and they kicked a 50-something yard field goal to make it 30-20, and they scored a garbage time touchdown. And so consequently, they were that was a terrific effort by Tulane, and that's one of the reasons the committee gave them the ranking they did. So anyway, again, appreciate being able to talk about the league. And we're thrilled. I think the league has a good future, but as I told you at the outset, Dan, the transfer portal, the year residency going away, NIL, it's definitely going to affect us. So we're going to have to figure out a way to keep players, to recruit maybe differently, to maintain what we did the last 10 years. Not going to be as easy going forward, I don't think, because if you look at all those great teams we had, UCF and Cincinnati and Houston and Memphis and others, Temple with Matt Rule, could they have kept those teams together in this climate? That's the question. That's the $64 question, and that's the one that we're going to have to address. But as usual, great to be with you, and look forward to the stretch run in the season. It's going to be interesting.
And to let everybody know, there's 3 teams that have already qualified for the postseason from the American. There's an opportunity that very soon there could be 7, if not more, that make it forward. So the American Athletic Conference, once again, you can follow the narrative that somebody makes up in their brain, or you can look and see who they play and what they do. And I will say that there are many teams in the quote-unquote power conferences that are not playing any of these teams in their non-conference schedule, and the American decided to play them all this year. So with that being said,
well, we didn't miss virtually anybody.
So thank you, Mike, as always, for everything. You played a lot of very recent national champions as well. So thank you for your time, and college football playoff teams that have been in there. So didn't shy away from any coach or any student athlete or anybody that's made it to the title game or close to it in recent history. Thank you for your constant effort with the American to put them front and center, to put a spotlight on them, and for taking care of the institutions the way you do. Congratulations on Army, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Same here, Dan. It's always great to be with you, and thank you. And, again, we are thrilled about Army. Thanks for mentioning them. And, again, have a great rest of the weekend. We look forward to sitting down with you again down the road if you'll have me. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That coming once again from the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, Mike Oresco. Appreciate him for joining the broadcast, as always, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for some big-time news there. You know, obviously the addition of Army is huge to the American Athletic Conference. It embodies the American name of the American Athletic Conference, covering all of America, and to have two of the three military institutions within the conference is huge. Now, Air Force, you know, are you on alert, so to speak? But good to see Army and Navy are going to be in the same conference, and the Army-Navy game is going to continue to be independent of the conference, so it will be in the extra week, and it will not count as a conference game. But if the top two teams of the American Athletic Conference in any given season from 2024 on end up being the likes of Navy and Army, they will essentially face off 2 weeks in a row. They'll have the opportunity to face off against each other in the American Athletic Conference Championship, and then they'll have the Army-Navy game as well. So just to make a note of that for everybody, it could happen twice in a season, and obviously that game would count. And now Army, who has Syracuse on the schedule next season, they also have Syracuse on the schedule down the road as well, I believe in the 2030s. So for the future of Army football, we will see who they have, because these schedules have been made ahead of time. And in the case of them joining a conference now, just like with Navy, you have to adjust your schedule. And so they're going to have to figure out who they're keeping on the schedule, because we look at 2024, they have Ball State, UConn, Dartmouth, UNLV, Air Force, UMass, and Wake Forest on the schedule. Of course, Navy, Wake Forest coming from the ACC. So they got to consider who they're going to keep and who they're going to get rid of, because you're going to play a bunch of conference games, 8 conference games, 4 non-conference games, and all of these teams that they have right now are 8 non-conference. So they're going to have to get rid of half of this schedule for next season. In 2025, Army's supposed to play Marshall, Kansas State, Marist, Liberty, Syracuse again, UConn, Lafayette, Air Force, Wake Forest, and UMass, as well as Navy. And then in 2026, they play Buffalo, Syracuse, Marshall, Coastal Carolina, Air Force, Wake Forest, UMass, and Liberty. So not only signing a deal with Syracuse, but signing a deal with Wake Forest over the next couple seasons. In 2027, they have Buffalo, Coastal Carolina, UConn, Air Force, UMass, Navy. 2028, North Texas, which they won't have to change because they're now going to be in the same conference as North Texas. Boston College, UNLV, UConn, UMass. 2029, Texas State, Old Dominion, the Citadel, Missouri, UConn, Navy, and Air Force. 2030, they have Old Dominion, South Alabama, Texas State, Georgia Southern, Troy, Navy, and Air Force. 2031, South Alabama, Cincinnati, Georgia Southern, Troy, Navy, Air Force. 2032, Middle Tennessee, Old Dominion, Troy, Navy, Air Force, BYU. 2033, they have Old Dominion, Buffalo, Missouri, Citadel, UConn, Navy, Air Force. 2034, Troy, Navy, Air Force. And then 2035, Navy, Air Force. And 2036, 2037, Navy, and Air Force. So I don't imagine, obviously Navy's not going to change. I don't imagine Air Force is going to change either. And so, you know, with schedules, and like I said, schedules for Syracuse, I believe, are also in the 2030s that haven't been announced yet, but that I've been privy to from some conversations that I've had. You know, we'll have to see what they're going to keep and what they're going to get rid of, because especially in 2025, I mean, they got an entire schedule there that's going to have to change. So we'll see what Army does, who they keep and who they get rid of, but we'll see. And Greg said improbable, but very crazy if that is to happen. And I think that was your response to Air Force, I would imagine here. If Air Force were to join the conference, then the American would have all of the American military. They would have Army, Navy, and Air Force, which would be pretty insane and also pretty cool. So, you know, we'll see. But now the American Athletic Conference, just to let people know what it's going to look like, the American Athletic Conference will now they will now have all of these teams. So as of 2024, the American Athletic Conference will be Tulane, UTSA, Memphis, Florida Atlantic, South Florida, Rice, Navy, North Texas, Tulsa, Charlotte, UAB, Temple, East Carolina, and Army. They will not dip below, like I was saying earlier in the show, they will not dip below 14 members. 14 football members is the largest membership they've ever had in the American Athletic Football Conference, and they will keep that. So they went to 14 when they lost Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF, but gained UTSA, UAB, Rice, North Texas, Florida Atlantic, and Charlotte. So when they gained those 6, they got to 14. Losing SMU would put them at 13, but SMU's there this season. Navy will be there next season, so they're not going to dip below 14. When SMU comes out of the door, Army will be going right in that door of the American Athletic Conference. So they're going to stay at 14, and it's going to be interesting because now they're going to have teams in Louisiana as well. So I'm going to look at this right now. New Orleans, Louisiana, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Memphis, Tennessee. They'll also be in Winning in Paradise, I should say, for FAU in Boca Raton, Florida. And then they'll have South Florida is down in Tampa. They'll have Rice, which is in Houston. So losing Houston and gaining Rice, they keep the city of Houston, Texas. Navy is in Annapolis, Maryland. North Texas is in Denton, Texas. So they'll be there. Well, they'll continue to be there, I should say. Tulsa, Oklahoma. Charlotte, North Carolina. Birmingham, Alabama, as well as Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And when you bring in Army, you now have West Point. So you're going to be in New York. And remember, the old Big East had Syracuse representing New York, and now you have West Point, you have Army representing the state of New York. So it's kind of cool because I thought they should go after Buffalo, and getting Army, they do now have a New York State team, which is huge to grab that market and to grab Army, which all around the country has a lot of love and support and around the world, and then Greenville, North Carolina for East Carolina. So a lot of good places here, a lot of good locations. And what did Greg say? No, Army, Navy playing each other back-to-back weeks. Right. And so it would be if they both won the conference. So they would, or not won the, if they both were in the top 2 in the conference, they would play each other for the championship. So it could happen, would be interesting. And we obviously talked about it with Mike Oresco, and you just heard that. But yeah, I mean, the American Athletic Conference is something I've covered for a long time, and they've had to get really creative, kind of like Conference USA, be willing to take people from everywhere. Conference USA is the conference of the United States, the American Athletic Conference, the conference of America. So, very similar kind of, name of we're going to take anybody from the United States and we're going to put them together. And so you can understand that they've both had to get creative, and it's unfortunate, but the American gets poached, so then the American poaches Conference USA, and then Conference USA has to poach and bring some others in and whatnot. So this is something that happens, and we have to find ways to bring it in. Have to find ways to get teams to come in to keep these conferences fruitful, the American, Conference USA, and so on and so forth, with these ripple effects coming. I do want to stay with collegiate athletics for a second here, if I may. I know we're doing some bonus time, but this is important. Changes to the postseason NIT. Looking at this, made in direct response to a new postseason tournament that's expected to begin as early as 2025. And so the very viability of the event could be in jeopardy, end quote, coming from NCAA Senior Vice President of Basketball Dan Gavitt on Wednesday. The NIT Board of Managers announced that regular season champions who do not win their conference tournaments and are not scheduled for the NCAA tournament will not receive an automatic bid to the NIT. Instead, the NIT will guarantee bids for 2 teams from each of the 6 power conferences, as well as 2 spots for the top 2 teams in the NET rankings that were not selected for the NCAA tournament. So here we are once again with the quote-unquote power name being used. I've told you that the power, when we talk about power conferences, and they've been called the Pac-12, which is no more, but the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big 10, the SEC, the ACC, and in basketball, I include the Big East. I would imagine when they're talking about the Power Six, they're talking about the Big East with all of those other conferences, but the Pac-12 is obviously changing. Now, the changes were met with criticism from mid-major conference commissioners and head coaches. Gavitt said Wednesday that the changes were necessary in order to compete with the new postseason tournament that's in the works. Quote, the NIT has a new credible and imminent challenge in the competitive postseason space. Every indication is that a new postseason event is planned to start in 2025. The event is well organized, imagined, and funded with a competitive broadcast component and location. As a result of all that, we believe we needed to change and evolve the NIT to compete with the best available teams and conferences given new postseason opportunities that are presented to them. The changes are a preemptive attempt to keep the NIT viable long-term, frankly, comes from Dan Gavitt, end quote. So the new tournament featuring the top 16 teams. So Gavitt was referring to a new tournament featuring the top 16 teams from the Big East, Big 10, and Big 12 that didn't make the NCAA tournament. The Messenger reported in September Fox Sports is behind this event, which would be at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. So something to look at. The Big East, Big 10, and Big 12. I guess they call it the Big Tournament. And they would take the top 16 teams from those conferences that didn't make the tournament. Once again, an unfair advantage to the Big 10 and the Big East and the Big 12 getting involved in this unfair advantage. So, this is definitely going to be something interesting. That's you're creating a tournament that's only going to provide opportunities to 3 conferences, and we talk about unfair advantages coming in the postseason, be it football, be it basketball. And, when we talk about these unfair advantages that are happening, we're discussing them with the notion that there are people out there that don't believe there's an unfair advantage, and there's nothing written, right? There's nothing written in the college football playoff that says the Big Ten is guaranteed 2 spots. But now you're going to have a tournament where it's telling you, yes, we are being biased. We're only going to help the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Big East. We're not going to help anybody else. We're not taking anybody else. We're just going to take these 3 conferences and screw the rest. And, that, to me, should not be allowed to happen. A tournament like that, what does the ACC say to that? What does the SEC say to that? What do the MAC and the NEC and the Sun Belt and the Horizon League and the Ivy League and so on and so forth? What do they say to that? If there's going to be all these tournaments, right? The NCAA tournament is the tournament, right? That's the one. That's who we crown the national champion, and that's who we really consider. Then it's the NIT, then it's the CBI. If you put in this Big 10, Big 12, Big East tournament that allegedly Fox is behind, and you make this into its own tournament, then what does that champion mean to anybody? And then what happens with the NIT? And if the NIT is saying, hey, we're going to help, and if the NIT is saying we're going to help the quote-unquote power conferences, why? If the Fox one is going to help the Big East, the Big 10, and the Big 12, then why not just have an ACC, SEC tournament inside of the NIT? But again, there's 32 conferences in Division I men's basketball. 32. And all the conferences not named, the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, the Pac-12, the ACC, the Big East, are not well represented. 99.9% of the time, if you win any of those other leagues, there's no guarantee that a single other team is going to get in the tournament. So why would you make yet another tournament that's going to continue to push out the teams that aren't represented? So now you're going to have the NIT, this new tournament from Fox, and the NCAA tournament, all not regarding a bunch of these conferences as viable conferences, as conferences that they want to showcase and want to put in there. So you're going to have 3 tournaments that are going to, and I can't say the CBI is going to do that because the CBI has taken teams from different places and whatnot. So, but when we look at this, essentially what you're going to tell me is if there's a new tournament with the Big 12, the Big East, and the Big 10, and the NIT is going to become more focused on the quote-unquote power conferences, then the ASUN, the America East, the AAC, the Atlantic 10, as well as the Big Sky, the Big South, the Big West, the CAA, Conference USA, Horizon League, Ivy League, the MAC, MAAC, the MAC, MAC, Mid-American Conference, the MEAC, the Missouri Valley Conference, the Mountain West Conference, the Northeast Conference, which is where Lemoyne is, the Ohio Valley Conference, the Patriot League, the Southern Conference, the Southland Conference, and the SWAC, as well as the Summit League, the Sun Belt, the West Coast Conference, and the Western Athletic Conference are all going to be excluded once again. Why would you make another tournament to exclude who's already excluded? It doesn't make any sense to me. So, it sounds ridiculous, it sounds unfortunate, and downright disrespectful. So, collegiate athletics, once again, screwing people over that have already been screwed over. I don't understand it. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Once we go live, you can check us out in the archives. Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, as well as Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. A big time thanks to our incredible team of partners in our community, Carvel DeWitt, where you can get the DT Dolphin, my exclusive sundae in honor of the Lemoyne College Dolphins. You can also go to Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, to Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, to the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Pizza Man, PB&J's Lunchbox, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, 317 at Montgomery Street. The name of the restaurant is the name of the location in downtown Syracuse. Canine Kampground Dog Boarding, Avicoli's, Great Lakes Honda City, and Mother's Cupboard, where you can go and get my exclusive sandwich 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. You can go out and get the Cuse McMother. The Cuse McMother is something that I created for all of you here in Central and Upstate New York, and to everybody who travels in to say hello to our community. Head out to Mother's Cupboard on 3709 James Street in Syracuse, New York, 7 days a week to get the Cuse McMother, my spin on the breakfast sandwich, bacon, egg, and cheese inside of 2 pieces of French toast. Pick it up and eat it like a sandwich. Cut it up and have it with some syrup today. And, of course, we are proud to be the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you and with the Dolphins every Wednesday during Dolphin time at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, first and third Wednesday of each month. The AD and DT segments for you with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. Every second and fourth Wednesday, we bring you the Dolphin Dive, diving into stories of student athletes, coaches, future Dolphins, and alumni. Make sure you check out all of our specials by subscribing to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. And once you've subscribed, you can see our playlist on our YouTube channel, which is right there with the Lemoyne College Dolphins. You can click on the playlist and listen and watch all of our specials with Lemoyne College. If it's from Lemoyne, it's coming through us first. And make sure you check it all out. Much appreciation to the Dolphins. And we under-promise, over-deliver, as you will have a plethora of Dolphin Dive episodes coming up within the next few days. So make sure you go to LemoyneDolphins.com for more information. And as always, fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are proud exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Find your Bobcats every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Stories with student athletes, coaches, and administration all throughout the year, including our most recent specials with the women's soccer team, the men's basketball team, and the women's basketball team, all available to you on our YouTube channel by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and clicking subscribe for all of our content with the Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse. You can find your Bobcats on James Street, just outside of downtown Syracuse, and you can also find your Bobcats on our YouTube channel on their playlist BSC Syracuse. So make sure you join our YouTube channel today, and once you join our YouTube channel, you'll have the opportunity to see all of our Bobcat content and everything we continue to bring you on the Bobcat Buzz. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com, and as always, go Bobcats. The Alfred University Saxons are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You can find your Saxons during Saxon time, Mondays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. You will find your Alfred University Saxons with Presidential Perspective specials with President of Alfred University, Mark Zupan, who is a fantastic person to talk with because he takes so much time to get to know the Alfred University alumni, the current students, the prospective students, the staff, the history of Alfred University, and his attention to detail and just care for each person that comes through the door is really remarkable and truly special, and that makes every conversation we have one that you just can't miss. Presidential Perspectives are all available on our YouTube channel, as well as our Saxon Spotlights with student athletes, coaches, and administration, as well as alumni. You can find all of these by subscribing to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and finding our Alfred U. Saxons playlist. For more information on the Saxons, go to gosaxons.com, and as the website tells you, go Saxons. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank you for an awesome week. We got to start off the week with 40 specials from my conversations with the Atlantic Coast Conference, ACC, men's basketball, all 15 member institutions represented on Wake Up Call, as well as Commissioner Jim Phillips in Q&As with the entire ACC. Then on Tuesday, my dad and I broadcasted Wake Up Call live, on-site, on location in Phoenix, Arizona for the first time ever, coming off of our trip to the World Series to see my Diamondbacks. Priceless. Then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we were back here in the studios, bringing you our fantasy football content, as well as conversations with Lemoyne and my Blessings in Baseball segment with Dukes Knutson, the press box manager, and a wonderful, beautiful believer in God, Dukes Knutson. Love Dukes. Good friend of mine. Thursday, Papa Joe and I spoke about the World Series, our college football picks. We did pretty well in college. We did well in college football and in the NFL. We went 6-3 in our college football Week 9 picks. We both went 6-3. We both went 10-5 in our NFL Week 8 picks. We made our picks for college football Week 10 and NFL Week 9, so you can check all those out by going back and watching that broadcast. It's on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and on our Facebook timeline at wakeupcalldt. And today, we had the annoying moment of the week, proudly presented by Carvel DeWitt. We had Lead, Learn, Evolve, Ad-Lib, and Deliver. The acronym brought to you by Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay. Awesome places led by one of my greatest and best brothers of all time, Mr. Jimmer Sikowski, and his wonderful team and wonderful family. And we talked about the topic today, Who Are You? We honored the World Series, first ever World Series champions in their history, Texas Rangers, in the top dog of the week in K9, proudly brought to you by K9 Camp Dog Daycare and K9 Kampground Dog Boarding, just off of Bridge Street in East Syracuse, right off of the highway, right off of Erie Boulevard. Very easy to get to, and the perfect place, and the only place, in my opinion, to have your dog for a day or for an extended period of time at the dog boarding, where each dog has their own cabin. So big shout out to K9 Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Kampground Dog Boarding, helping us to feel safe and secure with our dogs when we have to drop them off for a little while or if we're going on a trip and whatever it may be. So big thanks to Lorraine, Chad, and the entire team at Canine Camp Dog Daycare and Canine Kampground Dog Boarding. And a big time shout out for the top dog of the week, the Texas Rangers. And, of course, many thanks, speaking of Texas, moving their headquarters down to Irving, Texas during COVID, Mike Oresco and the American Athletic Conference bringing Army in, something that I spoke with him about years ago. You got Navy, you're looking to expand, why not Army? We had this conversation more than once, and I just kept it in my head. I was like, what about Buffalo for the New York market? What about Army? And also New York market, but Army, so, Army is Army, and it's known all over the world. So to me, this was a huge addition. Football only, mind you, but still a huge addition. They're in the Patriot League. Army and Navy have their other sports in the Patriot League, and they have football in the American Athletic Conference. Navy does, Army will in 2024. Both independents forever and a day, and now they're both joining the American Athletic Conference. So, well, one of them has and one will. Just a beautiful, beautiful thing and awesome opportunity, I think, for the American Athletic Conference, and an awesome opportunity for Army as well. So I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, it was something on my radar for a long time, so I'm happy it got done. And I hope it works out for all parties involved. I want to thank Mike Oresco. And I also appreciate Mike for dispelling the rumor that VCU would be coming for basketball only. So definitely appreciate the commissioner coming on and clearing the air about that and talking about scheduling with me. Mike's been on the show for as long as the American Athletic Conference has been around. Before they had a name and a logo, Mike Oresco was on my show. So for over a decade, we've spoken to one another. And in the decade celebration of the American, he continues to keep his word and to be so very open and candid. You're going to hear things on Wake Up Call that I would venture to say you don't hear, and definitely not in this way anywhere else. And I appreciate the open door policy and the kindness and the time that Mike Oresco gives to me and to you through watching and listening to Wake Up Call. So many thanks to Mike Oresco for that, and to the entire team at the American Athletic Conference, including Chuck Sullivan, who's incredible with the media and always ever helpful. They don't make everybody like Chuck, and Chuck is definitely an asset, and I hope that he knows that, and so is the entire staff. I gotta give credit to everybody out there at the American Athletic Conference for the work that you do and for how much you care about all of us, and you just put in the effort and just help us all out. So I honestly can't thank you enough. I also want to thank Tom Fenstermaker as well. Tom Fenstermaker, who covers basketball in the American Athletic Conference, does a tremendous job, and I really do appreciate him. So I don't want to leave him out of it, as well as I've had the opportunity to speak with him both virtually and in person, and he's been wonderful. So big time thanks to him for that, and much appreciation to the American Athletic Conference and to everybody that's involved in the American. You're doing a wonderful, wonderful job, and I appreciate it so very much. So hard to find good people, but there's other places where it's easy to find good people, and the American's one of those places. So big time thanks to you, and Mike, thank you again for being so open to tell the story of the American here on Wake Up Call, including working out TV and scheduling and everything to come, as well as all of the things around bringing Army football into the American on July 1st, 2024, and dispelling the rumor of VCU. So appreciate it all, and very thankful for it. Inside of Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com is what's popping. You know where to go for all your snacks. Head out to Ma and Pa's today. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT. X, the former Twitter, at Call DT. Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. And as always, folks, you know what it is. God bless, no stress, do your best. You can buy shirts and sweatshirts on my memorabilia site. You can go and get that stuff now. and so you can get it today and get it with my quote on the back, God bless, no stress, do your best. So I'll share the link on our social media again, and I look forward to you putting in an order and supporting everything we do here at Wake Up Call and through Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. Have a wonderful day. God bless you all, and I look forward to seeing you soon.